open up the netted habitat and watch as the two live butterflies soar up into the bright blue California sky. We watch them until we can't see them anymore, and Jules dances about excitedly. "Flying, Mama," she says over and over. "They're flying." "They are, sweetie," I say, smiling. Finally, I remove the third butterfly from the bottom of the enclosure, and I let the girls hold it gently in their palms, all of us marveling over its intricate beauty. "Where should we put it, Mama?" Vera asks. "I think we should bury it over there," I say, pointing to a bush full of flowering white roses in the corner of the yard. Together, the three of us walk over to the bush and kneel down in the dirt. Jules holds the butterfly carefully while Vera digs a shallow grave with one of my salad serving spoons. Gently, we place the butterfly in the soil, and then we cover it with fallen rose petals that we have collected. "Let's all say a few words of thanks to the butterfly," I say, and we take hands, closing our eyes. "Thank you for allowing us to be part of your life, butterfly," I say. "I'm sorry that you didn't get to fly into the world, but we are so grateful that we got to see you transform from a caterpillar." "Thank you, butterfly," Vera says. "You were very pretty." "Thanks, butterfly," Jules says quietly. Inside, the house feels a little emptier. "Butterfly died," Jules murmurs over and over again. I squat down in front of both girls, tugging at their hands, knowing that they are already shifting direction and ready to disappear into their room to play. "The butterfly did die," I say to them. "But remember how the butterfly was first a caterpillar?" They nod at me. "And then it went into its cocoon?" They nod again. "Well, now it's in the ground, which is like another cocoon, and it's going to go through another transformation." "It will emerge into something else eventually," I explain. "Like into another butterfly?" Vera asks excitedly. "Not exactly, but it will become part of the earth again, and its energy will go on to be something else. Maybe a flower in the rosebush, or maybe something we can't even imagine." "Is that what happens when we die?" Vera asks. "I think it is," I say. "In either way, the love we have for the butterfly doesn't change. Just like when a person dies, that love we feel for them doesn't disappear, and neither does theirs for us." "I still love the butterfly," Vera says, mirroring my statement. "Love the butterfly," Jules mimics. "Yes, we all love the butterfly, the one in the ground and the ones that flew up into the sky. That's what's important." I release my daughter's hands and they scamper off to play. I stand up and watch them from the doorway for a moment, thinking about how the only thing I really want them to understand about death is that it does not change love. In her later years, after she had done extensive research on the afterlife, Elizabeth Kubler-Ross came to the conclusion that death is but a transition from this life to another existence. I believe this to be true as well. Like Kubler-Ross, I've been thinking about death for a long time. First, as a result of the personal losses I've experienced, and now as a result of the work I do, helping people navigate their own grief processes. What happens when we die? I've been asking myself this question for most of my life. Thinking about what happens when someone dies is a natural part of the grief process. But not only that, it is part of the life process. How we make sense of our time here has an enormous impact on how we live our lives, how we develop relationships, and how we plan for the future. Death is part of life, but one that we're not always so good at looking at. My mother died when I was 18, and one of the aspects I was most troubled by in my grief process was how little the people around me were able to talk about death. And while it's normal for grieving individuals and the people surrounding them to want to move forward rather than dwell on the loss, it's inevitable that thoughts of death become more present than ever. How does someone reconcile this experience within a culture that tends to shrink from the idea of death? I began losing people at a young age. When I was 14, both of my parents were diagnosed with cancer within months of each other. I was an only child and facing the reality of being on my own in this world before I would even reach adulthood. So while most of my peers were reveling in a youthful sense of immortality, I found myself asking big questions about life and what happens when it is over. After my mother died, I found myself adrift in a sea of uncertainty. Why did she die? Where did she go? Would I ever see her again? Did I still matter now that the person I mattered most to was gone? I floundered in this place. I felt a great sense of meaninglessness. I struggled to find purpose in my existence. I worried that at any moment I might die too. I wasn't sure if I should live every day as though it were my last, or if I should be more practical, working and sacrificing to create a solid foundation for a long existence. Most of all, I didn't know whom to turn to with these questions.